It's time to respond to Weezy's vlog. Woo! Alright, so Craig, I really loved you taking us around the medieval ruins, and I especially loved Chyna's deep-rooted knowledge of those ruins at the brewery. But I have to correct her just a little bit. She's got one thing a little bit wrong, and it is about the tables. So those tables were not actually used for umbrellas. She is sort of cross-remembering something probably from other ancient umbrellas that were found on the West Coast when Lewis and Clark came through. But what we're looking at there with the tables, that hole in the center, is actually for a sort of primitive keg to be put underneath. These kegs were not as good as, metal ones, of course, and they were not as watertight as, like, wine barrels are. They were made from scrap wood, and they were sealed on the inside with clay to keep them watertight. They had this weird, I don't even know how to describe it, sort of opening in the bottom where you could shove this little pedal sort of thing, and they would be rolled out and put in the center underneath the table. And a hose made out of animal hide, sometimes even intestines, would be run through the top center of the table and hooked up to, like, a spigot. I don't know how to describe it either, like a spigot. So that everyone could serve themselves. It was actually considered rude for the brewmaster, even though he was the host, to serve his guests. He didn't want to appear boastful by making his guests drink his own draft, so instead, they would serve him, and he would get to watch and see which one got the most refills, which one didn't seem to like it the most, stuff like that. He would learn from both those who did like the beer and who didn't like the beer, and be able to improve his recipe. And that is actually what those holes are for. If you look closely at the ground underneath, you'll actually see several sort of small, flaky layers of clay, because that is the clay from the inside of the barrel that would kind of just fall off and flake off, and just they weren't very good barrels, and so they got damaged really easily. Like, they put more effort into the clay formula for the tables than they did for the barrels, because they were meant to be reused and repurposed. I mean, and that's why the tables are still around, because they didn't want two beers to be in the same barrel. They thought that that ruined the flavor of the second beer by having the first one overshadow it. So they would destroy the barrels and then remake them with new clay. And that is a history lesson for you. So now you know more about the ruins that Chyna took us on a walk through, and the tables that surrounded them in the beer garden. Thanks.